I'm hoping my phone will stay in the tree for this video. Look at this. I've been wanting to get waterfalls in the background of my videos up here in Cheddar because there's a few, but a lot of them are just too loud, too big, too loud, too much of a fall. But this one hopefully will be alright. I want to go a little bit deeper into the video I did last time, which is called the War of Two Worlds, and I'm talking about the digital interface, the how can I say it, digital technology and the consciousness that's behind it. Basically that's what I'm referring to. You know, people are being integrated into that on a massive scale, and what the most important thing I think to remember, and a good way to start this off, is that we are in ultimate control of whether or not that takes control of our consciousness itself and starts to own us, to own our bodies and own us, own our thoughts and our minds. It's below us, that's why it has to take us over, you know, and turn us on each other and everything else. And I know this, perhaps I'm getting a bit too deep with this one, but you know, I must test the ground sort of thing and see what feedback comes back. But yeah, what you've got basically is a digital war, which is unnatural. The digital signal itself, everything to do with digital, it's all unnatural to Earth, even though it's made out of earthly things. And you've got a war between that and nature itself, and the main war is between imagination and digital, because digital doesn't want you being your own creator. So when I mention in these past videos that I've done about you are the creator, because you're the outcast now, you're the defector, you're the how do you want to say it? You know, you're retaining your ancestral information and knowledge, and you're actually part of the creation. Remember, I was saying that you are the creator, and everybody else is just a robot, you know, NPC. And we already know that this machine has the ability to read our dreams, and this is why I have to be really careful with sharing dreams. We know that this machine, through human help, has managed to develop the ability to read. Like, if you had a dream, it can say you dreamt about a car, or you dreamt about a house, or you dreamt about whatever. This is already, you know, they've already discovered this and proven it. They can't tell you exactly what car that was, what colour it was, or anything like that at the moment, but they can certainly tell you that it was this object you dreamt about. So that's a little bit scary. And you know, I had a dream last night. I've never had a dream like it. I was stood next to Donald Trump, and he was sort of, you know, nodding around to all the people like this, and we're up on a small stage, a small sort of black painted stage, with a step, and he's nodding around, and I'm his pilot, you know. He doesn't know I'm his pilot, but I'm stood there with him, but he knows me. But you don't know. It was a really strange dream, if you know what I mean. But yeah, talking about Trump should get rid of the normies, left wingers. So we're left with the hardcore now. Here we go. So yeah, there's these two interfaces, and you know, there's this interface, and then there's human imagination in us. And it hates the fact that we can create for ourselves, because if we're creating for ourselves, it can't have world domination. And it gradually takes over people. You can see people become soulless, you know, they literally, the life goes out of them. It actually leaves them, you know, whether it does it through, you know, what you've got, the 3D goggles now, where you don't even realise you're in this reality until you whip them off. You know, you're literally just hacking all your senses. That's on a sort of, you know, and then everything becomes squares and blocks. You know, you've got Minecraft, and kids spend all day just looking at computer screens, building a world out of squares. You know, it's really strange. But yeah, and then on another level, you've got these, you've got like the police officers, for instance, that wear the earpieces, and literally those earpieces tell them what to do. You know, it's a digital signal that is telling them what to do with this human being they got hold of, and they don't even view you as being human at that point. They'll grab you by the arm and they're not even, there's no interaction. Like, he's managed to separate the interaction between two humans, and being a human person at this point. They're listening to this. Do I bring him in or don't I? You know, is he targeted for extermination? It may not come out like that. It may, oh yes, so we need to arrest him, and then you go off somewhere and go to a factory and be exterminated because you're a defector, you know. But these people, they're completely taken over. They can't interact with you. Have you noticed that? I'm not saying I've ever been grabbed on the arm and had one of these earpieces, but I see it a lot of times. Especially see it on the internet. You can see there's a detachment from reality there, and it's all about the digital signal coming in the ear and what they have to do with this person next. You know, so you've got that on that level, and also you've got the level of that in order for this to take over, we need to be able to interact with it, and part of the interactions with this interface that's trying to take over is the fact that we have to be given an element of control over guiding it, because it has to learn through us. So we have to interact with it. So there's an element of voluntary interaction and uploading to the database so that it can learn more about us and about the way we live and about our planet and everything else. And it does it a lot through science. You know, a lot of these scientific types, there's no reality outside of a sort of a switch on off sort of thing, you know. It's like a digital thing of itself, you know. They get a digital ideology. Same with any really hardcore atheists, you know. There's no reality. It's just all switches, and the interactions are just, they're not voluntary, you know. Yet they want to sort of talk you around. You know, have you ever noticed that these people who don't believe in the freedom of you being able to do everything, they still want to try and convince you of things. So that should tell you straight away that there's something wrong here. Because they wouldn't want to convince you if the path's already done and the switches are already the switches, and you don't really need to interact with the world then, do you? You know, you don't need to convince me of anything, do you? You know, if you're a hardcore atheist, because it's already decided. It's already done through things beyond your control. So yeah, so these ideologies do come along now, and these you know, this interface that's trying to take over, it needs to interact with us. And because it needs to interact with us, we can also beat it with our consciousness. There's, you know, I don't need to show proof of things or anything like that. And if I did, I couldn't prove everything that I say, including this video. It would be a bit too far for some people. But you know, there's you can change the digital outcome of anything that's already decided with your consciousness. You just need a little bit of time, and it needs to be in a smaller format. So videos like this at the moment are, to a degree, are deleting the Mandela effect and whatever you want to make of that. Videos are pretty much untouchable at the moment because they take too long to alter. But text, you know, and things that are stable are really easy. You know, things with a lower gigabyte, or maybe you know, even smaller than that, are a lot easier to manipulate and change with your mind, and that's been proven. It's been proven by science. But what you've got to remember is that all these scientists and everything else, they're working on behalf of this digital entity, because they are literally giving this digital entity the information it needs in order to take over. And the more it grows, the bigger the beast is. So we're using it to communicate. At the same time, it's using it against us to gather, you know, acknowledgements. You know, to gather, wrong word. You know, to gather information basically. And this is why the likes of all the people who get a bit elderly and they're in very, very high positions of power, they don't like the thought that they're dying, and this entity sort of promises them, you know, eternal life basically, because they can now live in a digital world. You can see where all this is knitting together now, and where it's all going. I think I'm going to leave it there. Perhaps I'm going a bit too far, but yeah, you know, yeah, I need to leave it there. But you know, it's basically, this is going to be like the War of the Worlds Part 2, if you know what I mean. What I mentioned in my previous video. Keep your imagination going. There's an attack on artists. Anybody with any kind of imagination, any artists, we're all creators, and the creators are the new witch hunt. So the new witch hunt is the people who are creators.